The first thing I learned about fire is that if you smile beautifully enough, people stop asking who lit the match. The glass wall behind me reflects 100 fractured versions of my face. All of them calm. All of them polished. All of them lying. White light floods the press hall like a surgical theater. Too clean. Too bright. The corporation's logo hovers over my shoulder, projected in soft gold, as if it were a halo instead of a brand. Cameras click. Microphones rise like a field of metal flowers. The air smells faintly of ozone and hot plastic. Overworked equipment, overworked people. My mouth is dry before I even open it. I can already feel it. That familiar sensation beneath my skin. Subtle at first, like warmth after the sun has set. Then deeper, heavier, as if thin golden rings are being slid one by one around my bones. I take one step forward. Flash. Another. Flash. My knees tremble. Just slightly. Not enough to see. Enough to feel. Good evening, I say, and my voice does what it always does. Comes out steady, clear, unafraid. Thank you for coming on such short notice. A journalist in the front row doesn't wait. She never does. Sharp haircut. Sharper eyes. The kind that doesn't blink. Mr. Hale, she calls. Isn't it true that internal documents show your company concealed safety violations for over 2 years? There it is. The match. The heat under my skin tightens. The golden pressure coils. Warmer. Denser. Like something listening. I don't look at my team, though I feel them behind me. Silent, rigid, terrified. I don't look at the massive screen to my left, where news channels are already replaying footage of the leak. I especially don't look at the smaller window in the corner where my younger brother's face appears between headlines. Clean. Composed. The air. I keep my eyes on the room. If this story caught you, subscribe. More are waiting. We take full responsibility for what has happened, I say. The words land, and with them comes the pain. It isn't sharp. It's worse. It's deep. A slow, spreading pressure, like heated metal pressed gently but relentlessly against my ribs. When I lie for the company, it always feels like this, like something inside me is being shaped into a more useful form. We failed, I continue, and that failure rests on my department's oversight. On my leadership. My tongue tastes faintly of copper. A murmur ripples through the room. Satisfaction. Hunger. The journalist lifts her mic again. So you admit personal responsibility? I nod once. Yes. The golden sensation tightens, pulsing now, synchronized with my heartbeat. I imagine rings glowing beneath my skin, branding me from the inside. It's ridiculous. I know it is. But I've felt this since I was a teenager, standing in my first emergency meeting, promising investors things I had no authority to promise. Since the first time I learned that taking the fall made everyone else breathe easier. I shift the narrative, redirect, contain. I talk about reforms, investigations, transparency, every corporate prayer in the book. When I say the company's name, the weight in my chest deepens, as if something settles there, heavy and possessive. When I speak about my own department, about my own accountability, the pressure eases just enough to let me breathe. They don't notice. They never do. They see the smile, the calm, the golden boy who stands in front of fires and never seems to burn. Another flash goes off. On the screen, my brother's image is replaced by stock numbers, by scrolling headlines, by the slow choreography of crisis. He will not be named tonight. He never is. He is for futures. I am for damage control. When the conference ends, the room erupts into controlled chaos. Voices, movement, questions I no longer have to answer. I step back. The logo still glows behind me. The light still burns. And just like every other time, after saving everyone in the room, I feel myself quietly disappear. The boardroom still smells like expensive coffee and fear. Long, glass table, black leather chairs, a wall-size screen looping muted headlines from the press conference I just survived. My reflection floats in it like a ghost. Same suit, same expression, a fraction of a second slower than my movements. They let me sit today. It's a courtesy, not a promotion. We've brought in outside support, my father says calmly, fingers folded as if this were a charity meeting instead of a crisis autopsy. Temporary, to stabilize the situation. The door opens, and something in the room shifts. Not scent, not heat, not the old alpha posturing my body learned to catalog years ago. This is quieter. Like air pressure changing before a storm. Victor doesn't rush. He steps in, closes the door behind him, and the room seems to arrange itself around that choice. He isn't tall in a dramatic way. He isn't broad in a threatening one. Dark suit, no tie, sleeves rolled just enough to be intentional. His hair is dark. His expression unreadable. His gaze, precise. He looks at the screen, at the table, at the board, then at me, not past me, not through me, at me. This is Victor Hale, my father continues. Crisis management. He'll be coordinating directly with PR and compliance. Victor gives a short nod. Thank you for having me. His voice is low, not soft, controlled. Questions begin immediately. Legal exposure, market response, internal containment. Victor listens. When he speaks, he doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't fill space. He cuts it. Who signed off on the data architecture? Why does your PR director not have veto power over legal messaging? What happens if Mr. Hale stops showing up tomorrow? The last one lands, strangely. A board member laughs, uneasy. That's not a realistic scenario. Victor's eyes don't leave the table. Most collapses aren't. I feel something tighten between my shoulders. He asks about protocols, about redundancies, about who talks to whom when things go wrong. And every time, the answers circle back to me. Through me. Around me. No one comments on it. Everyone assumes it. The meeting ends with strategic nods and carefully distributed hope. Chairs slide back. Tablets are collected. Conversations fracture into smaller, safer pieces. I gather my notes, already building the next response plan in my head, when Victor's voice cuts across the room. Owen, a moment. My father hesitates, then nods. The others file out. The door closes. The silence changes. Up close, Victor smells faintly of something clean and bitter. Mint, maybe, or cold air. He stands near the table, not invading my space, not offering it either. You handled the press well, he says. That's my job. Your job, he repeats, watching me. Or your function. I lift my eyes. There's a difference? A corner of his mouth moves. Not quite a smile. He walks once around the table, slow, thoughtful, as if tracing an invisible circuit. You don't look like the face of this brand, he says. I tense despite myself. You look like its nervous system. The words hit sharper than the accusations this morning. Excuse me? I say. He stops across from me. Meets my gaze. Everything roots through you. Every response. Every adjustment. Every lie you just told out there. His voice remains even. You don't sell the image. You keep the body alive. Something hot flares in my chest. Defensive. Automatic. That's a theory, I say. You've been here 20 minutes, and you've been holding this place together for years. The room feels smaller, or maybe I'm just more aware of it. I don't like the way he says it. I like it even less that he's right. It makes me want to argue. It makes me want to sit down. You're temporary, I say finally. Victor inclines his head. Everything is... He opens the door, and as he leaves, I realize my pulse has slowed, which somehow bothers me more than if it hadn't. The penthouse always smells like citrus and money. Warm light spills from recessed fixtures, brushing the walls in gold. The city glows beyond the windows, like a living circuit board. Everything here is designed to soothe, to suggest safety, to imply permanence. The table is already set when I arrive. Designer plates, real crystal, napkins folded into something that probably has a French name. My mother is adjusting the placement of cutlery by millimeters, her movements gentle, almost affectionate. Owen, she says, smiling as if she hasn't been watching the news all day. You look tired. Sit. I made you tea. She always makes me tea. As if warmth in a cup can undo years of precision. My father is already seated, scrolling through something on his tablet. He looks up, gives me a nod. Approval, measured, professional. Well done today, he says. You were very clear. Clear. Not brave. Not honest. Clear. My younger brother arrives last. All confidence and easy grace. Aaron looks like the version of me our parents always wanted. Broader shoulders, brighter smile, alpha presence that fills a room without asking permission. He leans in to hug our mother, claps my father's shoulder, and then grins at me. Saw the conference, he says. You were incredible. Again. The word sits strangely in my chest. Dinner unfolds like a rehearsal. Polite conversation. The city. The market. The foundation gala next month. My mother asks if I'm sleeping. My father comments on how well the stock recovered in after-hours trading. They thank me. They always thank me. And somewhere between the soup and the main course, the pressure starts. It's subtle at first. A warmth beneath my ribs. A familiar weight sliding into place as if something inside me recognizes this space, this table, this tone. When my mother reaches to smooth my sleeve, her fingers brush my wrist, and the sensation deepens. Heavy. Possessive. Aaron talks about a meeting he had with investors that afternoon. About a potential expansion. About how exciting it is to finally be moving into a more visible role. I think people are ready to see you more, my father tells him. To start associating you with the future of the company. Aaron beams. He should. It's a beautiful thing. Being named before you've had to be broken. My father turns his attention to me. And of course he continues. With everything happening, your position becomes even more critical, Owen. These periods require adaptability. There it is. The coded language of storms. We may need you to step forward again soon, he says mildly. If certain secondary issues gain traction. Secondary issues. The heat under my skin tightens, coiling closer to my spine. What kind of issues? I ask, already knowing. He tilts his head slightly. The gesture he uses when he is about to be reasonable. Distractions. Narrative risks. It's better when those are handled personally. It reassures the public. It protects the air. He doesn't say. My mother places a piece of fish on my plate. You're so good at these things, sweetheart. You don't let them touch you. My father stands, comes around the table, and rests his hand on my shoulder. The sensation is immediate, not warmth. Heat, a deep, searing pressure, as if something invisible presses into me, claiming its place. My breath stutters. Just for a moment, not enough for them to see. You're good at this, Owen, he says quietly. Some of us aren't, and in that sentence, something in me finally understands. My brother builds. My parents direct. And I burn. I sit there in golden light, surrounded by perfect surfaces and careful voices, and feel the invisible crown settle heavier on my bones. The golden sun, made not to inherit, made to be spent. The office at night is a different creature. By day it performs. By night, it breathes. Most of the lights are off, leaving long corridors in half shadow, motion sensors clicking on and off like nervous ticks. Our crisis floor glows alone above the city. A glass nerve ending suspended over the dark. I'm halfway through my third call when Victor appears at my side with a tablet and a cup of something that smells aggressively like coffee. Your legal team is panicking, he says. Which means they're about to do something stupid. That narrows it down, I mutter, ending the call and rubbing my eyes. What did they leak now? Not what. Who? He slides the tablet toward me. I scan. Freeze. Then exhale. Marketing, I say. Of course. They've been quietly feeding data to an outside consultancy for months, Victor continues, which is now quietly talking to a journalist. Which journalist? The one who hates you. I snort despite myself. You'll need to be more specific. We move. Strategy room. Server corridor. Someone's office with the light still on because they forgot to go home 3 days ago. Victor gives instructions with economy, short sentences, precise outcomes. I translate them into corporate language, redirect teams, reroute conversations, rewrite the future in 15-minute increments. Can you get compliance to stall the audit? He asks. For 48 hours. Good. I only need 12. He glances at me when I say it, like he's logging a useful system function. Not impressed. Aware. We end up in the server room, the air cold, the sound constant and mechanical. My phone buzzes again. Another executive. Another suggestion. We could announce a voluntary internal review, I say. Frame it as transparency. Offer to place oversight under a third party. Victor studies me. That's a beautiful lie. The words are barely out of my mouth when nausea slams into me. It's sudden, brutal. The world tilts. I brace one hand against the rack beside me, cold metal biting into my palm. Hey. Victor's voice is instantly closer. What's wrong? I swallow hard. My stomach twists as if I've swallowed something molten. Nothing, I lie automatically. The pressure under my skin surges, dense and heavy, like something tightening its grip. Victor doesn't move closer. He doesn't touch me. He just waits. I take a breath. Then another. No, I correct. That was wrong. He lifts an eyebrow. It would work, I continue, forcing the words past the lingering sickness. But it would bury the actual breach. The real issue is marketing shadow contracts. If we expose that, we don't need a lie. The nausea eases. Not fully. Enough. Victor's gaze sharpens. That's messier, he says. Yes. And it implicates people you work with. Yes. He studies me for a long second. Then nods. Once. Good. That's where we go. The pressure under my skin recedes another fraction. Like something reluctantly loosening. We move again. On the balcony, the city stretches out beneath us, neon veins and slow traffic arteries. Wind tugs at my jacket. Someone has brought out cheap takeout cartons and left them abandoned on the railing. Victor opens one, grimaces. Who ordered seafood? Desperation has no standards. We eat anyway, standing, watching emails flood in. You restructured the Asia response before legal even caught up, he says between bites. I know how they think. You know how everyone here thinks. I shrug. Occupational hazard. His gaze flicks to me. Lingers. You're not just anticipating the crisis. You're anticipating the people. The words land unexpectedly warm. In the empty kitchen later, under fluorescent light and the faint hum of machines, he hands me another coffee. Do you ever stop? He asks. I almost answer with a joke. Almost. Then the truth presses at my ribs. Heavy and familiar. I don't know how, I say instead. Victor doesn't smile. But something in his expression softens, just a degree. And for the first time since the fire started, I feel like someone is watching not my performance, but my limit. The live interview ends with a soft click of a muted camera and the illusion of safety. The studio lights dim. The technician gives me a thumbs up. Someone says, "Great job," the way people say good weather. I take one step back from the chair, and the world drops. There's no drama to it. No cinematic blackout. Just a sudden, brutal absence of strength. As if the strings holding me upright have been cut. My knees buckle. My vision blurs into white noise and city light. The last thing I register is the glass wall of a nearby conference room. Then, the floor rises to meet me. I don't hit it. Hands catch my arms, my shoulders, redirect the fall into something slower, controlled. My back slides down cool glass instead of slamming into it. The air leaves my lungs in a sound that doesn't feel like mine. Owen. Victor's voice. Close. Anchored. He lowers with me, one knee on the carpet, one hand firm between my shoulder blades, the other braced on my arm. Not gripping. Holding. The room is empty. Dim. Only emergency lights and the reflected glow of the city beyond the windows. Towers and traffic flicker behind the glass like a distant, indifferent ocean. My heart is racing. Too fast. My skin feels tight, overheated, like it's not quite fitting anymore. I'm fine, I say automatically. My mouth shapes the words. My body doesn't participate. Victor doesn't argue. He shifts closer, grounding his weight, creating a still point. Breathe, he says. In through your nose, out slow. I try. The first breath shakes. The second burns. There it is again, that deep, internal pressure, the familiar unbearable warmth beneath my ribs, as if thin bands of heated gold are tightening, one by one, around something essential. I press my palm flat against my chest, as if I can hold myself together from the outside. It happens sometimes, I admit. Defined sometimes. I huff a weak, humorless breath. When I have to. He watches me, not my face. My hands, my breathing, the tension I'm not hiding well enough. Since when? The answer surprises me by coming out immediately. Since I was 14. The words settle between us. First board dinner. I continue quietly. First time I said something I knew wasn't true because it made things easier. I thought I was just nervous. Then it happened again, and again. Every time I had to be useful, the pressure pulses, then steadies. I thought it was stress, I say, or anxiety, or some kind of delayed response. But it's not panic. It's specific. Victor's jaw tightens. That's not stress, he says. I look at him. That's ownership. The word lands wrong. Heavy. Precise. He shifts, sitting fully now, back against the glass beside me. Close enough that our shoulders almost touch. I've seen versions of this before, he continues. Not common, but it happens. In people who've been turned into roles for too long. When a system relies on someone the way a body relies on an organ. His eyes flick to my chest. Eventually, the body starts to mark it, reinforce it. You stop being a person and start being a function. And the function leaves an imprint. My pulse slows a fraction. You're saying I'm... what? Branded by capitalism? I murmur. A corner of his mouth twitches. I'm saying your body learned something your environment needed from you. And it learned it very well. The pressure doesn't vanish. But for the first time, it doesn't feel like a personal failure. It feels like evidence. I let my head rest back against the glass, the coolness grounding me. So I'm not weak, I say quietly. Victor turns his head just enough to meet my gaze. No, he says. You're overused. And something in my chest loosens. Just enough to hurt. Just enough to breathe. The archive doesn't appear on any public map of the building. No sign. No directory listing. Just a locked door at the end of a service corridor that smells faintly of dust and disinfectant. Victor opens it with a borrowed keycard and a familiarity that makes my neck prickle. Inside, the air is colder. Still, rows of compact shelving slide open at the press of a button, revealing decades of contracts, internal memos, structural diagrams, the bones of the corporation. Why are we here? I ask. Because this is where intentions go when they want to pretend they're neutral. He moves with quiet efficiency, pulling folders, connecting a portable drive to a terminal. Data blooms across the screen in layered maps, decision trees, authorization routes, crisis response flows. At first it looks like any large organization. Then he starts isolating points. Here, he says, highlighting a cluster. And here. And here. I lean closer. My name appears. Again. And again. Not in headlines. In margins. Approvals. Overrides. Emergency exceptions. Unofficial routing notes. I swallow. This is just because of my position, I say automatically. PR touches everything. PR touches perception, Victor replies. This touches infrastructure. He pulls another layer forward. Then another. Every time a crisis deviates from protocol. Every time legal is bypassed. Every time a response requires speed over hierarchy. It roots through me. The visual becomes impossible to ignore. A dense web of lines converging again and again into the same node. Mine. You're not the face, Victor says quietly. You're the stabilizer. The shock absorber. The unsanctioned authority. That's not, I start. He turns to look at me. They don't put your name on the structure, he continues, because structures can be protected, replaced, negotiated. You are something else. I feel heat creep into my throat. Then why don't they protect me? Victor's eyes don't soften. They don't protect you because they don't need to, he says. You already belong to the fall. The words hit harder than any accusation. My first instinct is anger. Sharp, hot, defensive. That's ridiculous, I snap. They're my family. Then they should have given you insulation, he replies, or equity, or a succession path. Instead, they gave you visibility and access and nothing you could stand on. I turn back to the screen, jaw tight. The evidence doesn't change. Neither does the pressure beneath my ribs. We leave the archive close to midnight. The bar we end up in is almost empty. Soft music, dim amber light, the kind of place executives pretend not to frequent. Victor orders whiskey. I order something I won't taste. We sit in a corner booth. The glass is cool in my hand. Grounding. So what? I say finally. You came here to show me I'm, what? A liability? I came here because I hate systems that feed on people and call it efficiency, he says. And because yours is particularly elegant. I huff a quiet laugh. You make it sound like an art form. It is. That's the problem. I stare into my drink. Shock is giving way to something else. Something stranger. Relief. Not comfort. Not acceptance. But the sensation of a puzzle piece clicking into a space that's been empty my entire life. So I'm not imagining it, I say. No. I'm not failing. No. I close my eyes briefly. When I open them, Victor is watching me the way he watches Data. Not with hunger, with intent. And for the first time, the question forming between us isn't how to save the company, but who it's really been built on. The auditorium is dressed for celebration. Soft lights wash the stage in corporate gold. A massive screen cycles through images of growth, innovation, carefully selected diversity. Music hums beneath polite conversation. Waiters glide between rows with champagne flutes like punctuation marks. This isn't crisis management. This is theater. Victor and I stand to the side of the stage, half in shadow, half in light. He's watching the room the way some people watch oceans, tracking subtle currents, not waves. I'm watching my brother. Aaron moves through clusters of executives and investors with the easy confidence of someone who has never been associated with a disaster. He laughs, shakes hands, lets people lean closer to him. His suit is tailored perfectly. His smile is genuine. I am proud of him. That part is real. The lights dim. Applause swells. My father steps onto the stage. Voice warm, practiced, reassuring. He talks about legacy, about adaptation, about guiding the company into a future that honors its values while embracing necessary change. Then he gestures toward Aaron. And it is time, he says, to formally introduce the person who will carry that future. The screen behind him shifts. My brother's face fills it. Larger than life. Clean lines. Bright eyes. The air. Aaron walks onto the stage to thunderous applause. I clap with everyone else. My palms sting. He thanks them. Talks about vision, responsibility, opportunity. His voice is steady. He's good at this. Better than I ever was at his age. My chest tightens. They present him with a symbolic pin. The company emblem. Gold, of course. Cameras flash. The room eats it up. Then my father's gaze moves. To me. And of course, he continues, none of this would be possible without the person who has kept us steady through every storm. Our constant, our foundation. The lights find me. A second wave of applause. Warmer. Grateful. Stability. That's what I am when they don't need a scapegoat. I step forward because that's what the choreography demands. I shake Aaron's hand. He leans in and murmurs, "Thank you," like he knows, or thinks he does. I smile for the cameras. Behind the stage, Victor's gaze never leaves the crowd. Media desk just changed their content rotation, he says quietly as I rejoin him. 3 outlets pulled scheduled features, replaced them with placeholders. Placeholders for what? He checks his phone again. Something they don't want time-stamped yet. The golden pressure under my ribs shifts. Not pain. Anticipation. The presentation continues. Market optimism. Forward momentum. Controlled hope. Victor leans closer, his voice low. Someone is repositioning attention. Not toward your brother. Then where? He meets my eyes. Toward the company's past. A chill slips down my spine. On stage, Aaron laughs at something my father whispers. He looks young, earnest, ready. I watch him under the lights, crowned with applause, and feel two things with equal force: pride and the slow, familiar sensation of being guided closer to the edge. Again, the legal department is always cold, not in temperature, in tone. Muted lights, soundproofed walls, glass offices where people speak in lowered voices as if the law itself might overhear and take notes. Screens glow with contracts, annotations, risk projections. I'm here because Victor texted only 4 words. You need to see this. He's waiting near the central console, arms folded, expression unreadable. 2 junior lawyers sit stiffly at a table nearby, pretending not to listen while absolutely listening. Pull it up, Victor says. One of them hesitates, then does. The document fills the screen. Crisis Response Framework. Personal Accountability Clause. Contingency Attribution Protocol. My eyes skim automatically. Years of training locking onto danger faster than language. Then I see it. My name. Not in a draft field. Not in a suggestion line. Embedded. Final. Primary responsible party in the event of reputational destabilization tied to historical misconduct. The words blur for a second. That can't be active, I say. I haven't signed anything. One of the lawyers swallows. It was authorized this morning. By whom is a stupid question. I lean closer, scrolling. The structure is elegant. Brutal. It creates a narrative path where future fallout routes cleanly into a single point of accountability. Me. This is preloaded, I murmur. You don't write this after something breaks. You write this so it breaks where you want. Victor's jaw tightens. The golden pressure under my ribs stirs. Not heat. Weight. A dense, inward pull, like gravity turning personal. I straighten slowly. I need to talk to my father. His office hasn't changed since I was 16. Same desk. Same abstract painting that looks like something expensive survived a fire. Same controlled view of the city. He's standing when I enter, hands loosely clasped, tablet resting near the edge of his desk. Owen, he says, I was about to call you. I close the door behind me. Did you authorize a crisis attribution protocol with my name in it? He doesn't blink. Yes. No hesitation. No apology. Just confirmation. That document assigns future liability to me, I continue. Preemptively, it creates clarity, he replies. In uncertain conditions. You mean it creates insulation? For the company, he says. And for Aaron. He exhales softly, like someone indulging a childish conclusion. You survive storms, he says. Your brother builds futures. The words land. Not sharp. Final. The pressure under my skin surges. Sudden. Crushing. As if the invisible bands Victor spoke of have tightened all at once. My lungs refuse a full breath. My vision narrows, brightening at the edges. You wrote this without telling me. I manage. You didn't need to know, he answers calmly. You needed to continue functioning. Functioning. I grip the back of a chair, steadying myself. When were you planning to use it? I ask. When it becomes necessary. When? I repeat. Not if. He studies me, the way he studies markets. Owen, he says, you are exceptionally capable. But you are not positioned to lead this corporation into its next phase. Aaron is. And protecting that transition is my responsibility. The golden pressure pulses, hard enough that my heartbeat stutters around it. So, what am I ask quietly. He considers, you are what makes it possible. The answer is immediate. Terrible in its honesty. I realize then that he isn't being cruel. He's being precise. And that somehow hurts more. I step back from the desk. The room feels smaller, thinner, as if all the oxygen has been allocated elsewhere. I wasn't part of this decision, I say. No, he agrees. You were part of the design. When I leave his office, my legs carry me out of habit more than command. The corridor stretches, white and impersonal. The pressure in my chest is nearly unbearable now. Not pain. Claim. It takes 3 tries to draw a full breath. And in that halting rhythm, something finally settles into place. They never saw a sun. They built a function and named it me. The parking structure smells like oil and rain. Wind moves through the open levels in restless currents, carrying neon reflections from the city below. Red, blue, gold. The corporation's tower glows behind us, a vertical monument to everything that has just gone quiet inside me. I don't remember walking here. Only the elevator doors opening. The night, the cold finding my skin. Victor stands a few feet away, phone in hand, its screen lighting the sharp planes of his face. He looks less like a consultant out here and more like what he actually is. Someone who doesn't belong to buildings. I pulled the contingency lattice, he says. Not just legal. Operational, financial, informational. He turns the screen toward me. The web blooms again. Familiar, worse in this light. If you stop routing decisions, he continues, response times triple. Departments begin contradicting each other. Risk protocols trigger internal locks. Investor confidence destabilizes. He swipes. 6 months, he says. Maybe less. My throat tightens. That's not possible. It's a billion-dollar machine. Machines still need load-bearing points. He meets my eyes. You are one. The pressure beneath my ribs stirs, heavy and resentful, as if it recognizes its own importance. So what? I snap. I keep doing this forever? Until I collapse in a hallway and someone steps over me? That's one model, Victor says. The wind snaps my jacket against my side. A car alarm wails somewhere below, distant and briefly hysterical. And the other? I ask. He steps closer, closing the space not aggressively, but deliberately. Then, let it. The words hang between us, thin and impossible. Let it fall, he continues quietly. Let the structure break where it's been pretending it doesn't bend. You're talking about destroying a company, I say. I'm talking about removing a silent support. My pulse is loud in my ears. There are clients, I say. People. Jobs. Teams who didn't build this the way your diagrams did. I know, he replies, which is why I'm not telling you to walk into the dark. I'm telling you to walk sideways. He turns the phone again. This time the screen shows something different. Names. Accounts. A compact list of clients whose contracts route directly through my office. Who trust me. Who respond to my calls. Who've already quietly followed my lead through 3 crises. Come with me, Victor says. We take these. We build something clean, transparent, smaller, mobile. Something that doesn't eat its own operators. My breath catches. You can't just. I can, he interrupts. And so can you. The pressure under my skin flares. Not pain. Alarm. If I leave, I say slowly, they'll say I ran. That I broke under pressure. That I was the problem. Yes, he says without hesitation. The honesty knocks something loose. They will rewrite you, he continues. Because they can't afford to let you become an exit strategy. I turn away, staring at the city. Every light out there belongs to someone's late night. Someone's emergency. Someone's quiet. I don't know who I am without this, I admit. Victor steps beside me, close enough that I can feel the heat of him through the wind. That's the point. Silence stretches. The tower hums behind us. 1,000 floors of expectation. Come with me, he says again. Not as my employee, not as their shield. As a partner. Partner. The word doesn't slot into any existing structure in my head. Panic rises first. Hot. Immediate. Then something else. Hope. Small. Reckless. followed quickly by desire. Not for him, though that hums under the surface now too, but for the sheer heresy of the idea. And then fear. Deep, reasonable, trained. This is insane, I whisper. Victor's mouth curves, just barely. Yes. He lets the words settle, and for the first time in my life, someone is not asking me to stand in front of the fire. He's asking me to step out of it. By morning, the scandal has a name. It trends before it breathes. The lobby is louder than the press hall ever was, phones ringing, voices layered over each other, screens alive with speculation and half-built narratives. Security guides me through corridors that feel narrower than they used to. Every step echoes. They are already waiting when I reach the stage. Rows of journalists, cameras, the familiar geometry of confrontation. Behind the curtain, my team hovers in controlled panic. Someone adjusts my microphone. Someone presses notes into my hand. A carefully written path. A beautiful lie. I don't look at it. The golden pressure beneath my ribs is already awake. Not a stir. A grip. It coils inward, dense and hot, as if something in me knows this is the moment it was shaped for. Owen. My communications lead whispers. We'll root questions. Keep it tight. We can still steer this. I nod, because nodding is a reflex. Then, I step forward. Light explodes. The logo blooms behind me in familiar gold. The air hums with static and expectation. Somewhere in the front row, the same journalist from weeks ago raises her mic, already smiling. I place my hands on the podium. The surface is cool, real. My name is Owen Hale, I begin. The words move the way they always do. Steady, trained, designed to reassure. The pressure tightens. I'm here to address the allegations regarding the corporation's historical compliance failures and the newly released internal documentation. Every phrase clicks into place. Legal, safe. The golden sensation swells. Heavy enough now that my breath catches at the end of a sentence. It's as if thin bands are drawing closer together, shaping something inside me into the form it prefers. I see my brother's face on one of the side monitors. Concerned, removed, untouched. I think of my father's office, of Victor's phone glowing in the dark, of the word partner, with no place to land. I inhale, the pressure crests, and instead of riding it, I step sideways. The documents released last night, I continue, were not anomalies. They reflect a long-standing internal structure that prioritized containment over correction. A ripple moves through the room. This structure, I say carefully, did not fail accidentally. It functioned as designed. The golden pressure falters, not weakens, hesitates. I will not attribute responsibility to abstract departments, I go on, or to unnamed processes. The choices reflected in these documents were made by identifiable leadership bodies within the corporation. I name them, not dramatically. Precisely. The pressure shudders. A murmur spreads. Pens pause. Someone swears softly. I have, in the past, stood before you and accepted responsibility on behalf of this organization, I say. That ends today. The words echo, not loudly, deeply. I am resigning from my role effective immediately, I continue, and I will not be serving as a representative or intermediary in the coming investigations. The pressure snaps. It doesn't fade. It breaks. The sensation is physical, unmistakable, as if something that has lived under my skin for years has finally lost its anchor. There is a sudden lightness in my chest. Too much. For half a second, it feels like falling. Then, space. Air moves into my lungs without resistance. My shoulders drop, though I didn't tell them to. The heat is gone. The weight. The invisible grip that has shaped every crisis response. The room is very quiet. Cameras keep recording. I will be cooperating fully with independent investigators, I finish. And I encourage others within the organization to do the same. No slogans. No branding. No smile. I step back from the podium. No one claps. No one speaks. The silence is not empty. It's stunned. As I turn, The logo still glows behind me, but it no longer feels like a crown or a collar. It feels like an object. Just that. I walk off the stage on legs that feel strangely new. Not steady, but mine. Behind the curtain, voices surge into confusion. Someone reaches for me. Someone says my name. I don't stop. Fear is there, sharp, alive, but it is no longer alone. It is threaded through with something else. Quiet, open, free. The corridors no longer recognize me. People rush past with tablets clutched to their chests. Voices too loud, steps too fast. Someone is crying in a corner. Someone is laughing in the wrong register. Screens along the walls update every few seconds. Headlines rewriting themselves in real time. My name is already being separated from the logo. I walk through it like a ghost. Owen, did you mean? Security is asking. I don't stop, not because I'm brave, because if I do, I might sit down and forget how to stand. At the elevator bank, a small crowd has gathered. Executives, assistants, a lawyer whose tie is already crooked. The doors slide open and closed, ferrying people upward into meetings that didn't exist an hour ago. Victor is there. He isn't arguing. He isn't explaining. He's handing his badge to security. I'm terminating my contract effective immediately, he says evenly. All further communication can go through my office. You can't just... Someone starts. I can, he replies. And I am... He turns then, finally, and looks at me. Not to check. To confirm. I step into the elevator beside him. No one follows. The doors close. For a moment, the world is just mirrored walls and the faint hum of descent. Then I laugh. It escapes before I can stop it. Short, sharp, disbelieving. Victor glances over. I don't have a badge anymore, I say. Another beat. I don't have an office. Another. I don't even know where my calendar went. The laughter shifts, thinning into something unsteady. My entire adult life has been scheduled, I continue. Someone was always telling me where to be, who to fix, what to say. The elevator dings softly as it passes floors. Now I don't know where I'm going. I finish. And that's somehow more terrifying than every scandal I've ever stood in. Victor watches me with that same unsettling attention. Good, he says. Good? Yes, he replies. It means the structure isn't doing the thinking for you anymore. The doors open. Street noise pours in. Horns, voices, wind, real, uncurated sound. We step out. The building rises behind us, glass and gold, already sealing itself, already adapting to a version of reality where I am a problem to be framed. I turn instinctively toward the entrance, then stop. There is nothing there for me now. I pat my pockets absurdly. No badge, I repeat. No assistant. No emergency phone. Victor's mouth curves faintly. I have a phone, he offers. I'm not sharing, I say automatically. He actually smiles at that. It's brief, real. We stand on the sidewalk like two people who have just walked out of a storm shelter to find the landscape rearranged. Traffic moves. Pedestrians pass, unaware that an internal architecture has just lost its keystone. So, I say. The word hangs, naked and unassigned. Victor tilts his head slightly. So, and for the first time, no one is waiting for me to decide what happens next. Which is exactly the problem, and exactly the beginning. Our office used to be a dentist's practice. We know this because the faint outline of a smiling molar still ghosts one wall, no matter how many coats of paint we apply. The space is narrow, the windows uneven, the air conditioning aggressively unreliable. It is perfect. We have 3 desks, 1 second-hand couch, a coffee machine that screams like it's being murdered every time it produces something technically drinkable. The first day we move in, Victor hands me a paper cup and says, "This is terrible." I take a sip. "It's ambitious," I say carefully. He watches my face. "That's not a no." I blink, then laugh. "No," I correct. "It's terrible." "Good," he says. "We're learning." We start small, quiet contracts. Clients who answer when I call because my name no longer comes with a corporation's echo. We don't chase headlines. We solve problems. Slowly. Transparently. Sometimes badly. The first time someone tries to push a crisis on me that isn't mine, my mouth opens automatically. Victor's foot taps mine under the table. I stop. No, I say instead. The word feels unfinished, but solid. The client blinks, regroups, adjusts. When they leave, my hands are shaking. Victor notices. That was clean, he says. I think I'm going to throw up. Progress, he replies. We hire 2 people in the first month. Maya, who left a major firm because she hated lying for men who couldn't spell her name, and Jonah, who once built an entire digital firewall in a basement because he got bored. They bring plants. The office becomes alive. Some days are brutal. A strategy fails. A client pulls out. I misjudge a room and watch a plan collapse in real time. The old instinct surges. Fix, smile, absorb. Sometimes I catch myself mid-expression, mouth already forming reassurance, and stop. I don't know yet, I say instead. It feels like walking without a railing. I don't always like it. I always breathe easier. Victor works differently here. Less like a scalpel, more like a person. He argues with Maya about fonts, bribes Jonah with pastries, leaves his jacket on the back of my chair like he expects to come back. We build routines, morning coffee, afternoon check-ins, late nights that don't feel like emergencies, just work. One evening, we're sitting on the floor with takeout containers and a mess of printed drafts. You realize, I say, gesturing at the chaos, we've created a company where no one is legally obligated to listen to me. Victor looks at me, considers. Terrifying, he agrees. I smile, then stop myself, then smile again, because this time I actually want to. The cheap office hums around us. The city leaks in through imperfect windows. Someone's music plays too loud down the block. No logos, no stages, no invisible weight beneath my ribs. Just space, and voices, and the strange, steady realization that, for the first time in my life, I am not positioned, I am present. The billboard is new. That's the first thing I notice. Same logo, same color palette, different slogan, something about renewal, about moving forward. The corporation has always been very good at surviving amputations. Victor and I are walking back from a late meeting with a client who insisted on paying us in actual pastries. The city air is cool, the kind that smells faintly of rain even when the sky is clear. The billboard rises above the intersection like a second sky. I stop without meaning to. There was a time when seeing that symbol anywhere outside the building made something tighten under my ribs. A reflex, a summons, a weight settling into place. Now, nothing. No warmth, no pressure, no invisible hands reaching inward. Just a picture, a brand, a thing. Victor notices immediately. He always does. You okay? He asks. I search myself out of habit, then answer honestly. Yes. The word comes easily. Clean. We stand there while traffic moves, indifferent and alive. People cross the street, carrying groceries, phones, conversations that have nothing to do with either of us. You know, I say, still looking up, for years I thought that feeling meant I was important. Victor hums. And now? And now I think it meant I was owned. I exhale. Slow. Full. The air goes all the way in. Victor shifts his weight, studies me with that familiar intent that once felt like assessment and now feels like attention. So, who are you now? He asks. The question doesn't panic me. It doesn't hollow me out. It just opens. I consider the billboards, the street, the office that still smells faintly of bad coffee and optimism, the people inside it, the quiet, unremarkable fact that tomorrow is unwritten. Just Owen, I say. Not a son. Not a function. Not a stabilizer. Just me. Victor's mouth curves. Good, he says. We were running out of titles. I laugh. He reaches out, fingers brushing mine, not urgent, not claiming. An invitation, a presence. I take his hand. The contact is warm, ordinary, real. He leans in, close enough that his breath ghosts my cheek. This, he says quietly, is not a hostile takeover. Disappointing, I murmur. He smiles fully this time. And then he kisses me. It isn't dramatic. It isn't practiced. It's gentle and brief and slightly crooked, like everything we've built. When we pull back, the billboard is still there. The city is still loud. The world has not rearranged itself. But something fundamental has. We turn and continue down the street, shoulders brushing, steps unaligned and uncoordinated and entirely our own. Not toward a victory, toward a life.